written. Before we begin, I have two advices for you. Number one, take notes in landscape mode. And number two, do not bring me to your pace. Come to my pace. Okay? Only two advices. Now we shall begin. Shall we? The nature of state. We begin our discussion with nature of state. Here I will be using two abbreviations. P is for politics and R is for religion. P is for politics, R is for religion. The three concentric circles on the board. And that is what the three different periodization of history looks like. The first one is ancient. In the ancient period, it is the religion that is protecting the politics. The religion protects the politics. In other words, it is religion which defines the political structure of the state. I can give you an example. Ram is Maryada Purushottam because he is in his dharma. That is how the ancient India has been visualized. I can give you another example. Ashok, a ruler, follows Dhamma. Ashoka's Dhamma is basically Buddhist philosophy, but he uses a Buddhist philosophy to define his state diplomatic practice and structure. In other words, it is the religion that protects the politics in ancient India. But as you move to the medieval period, when the Islamic people entered, it is then that they required their own laws. They called it Sharia. When they came with their Sharia, the problem was the Indians followed their own system of laws. So there was a clash. So a time comes in history when the circle begins to drift apart. In other words, there were requirements for certain laws which were not entirely religious. In other words, we can also say that for the first time, the secular laws were made in India in the medieval period with the coming of the Islamic people. While when you look at the modern circle, the circles have completely drifted apart because it is that time when politics is defined according to the Constitution of India. And Constitution is not a religious book. So this shift defines the evolution of the nature of state in India. But our discussion should begin with early medieval, which is somewhere in middle of these two. The circle of early medieval is exactly opposite of ancient India. Politics outside, religion inside, early medieval. The time period which historians believe of the beginning of early medieval is circa 750. This circle is completely the opposite of ancient, which means it is in this time period when religion is not important, the politics is. And with the help of politics, you define your religion. In other words, you kill a person first and then put a notion in the minds of the people that the killing was justified because religious. In other words, corruption has seeped in. It is this corruption that labels this time period as the Dark Age, also called Kali Yuga. We prefer calling it Kali Yuga. The corruptible Raja is here. So that is where our discussion will begin. We have to understand the shift first, and then we will start with early medieval. Once you are done, let me know. Okay? Shall we? Okay. So on one side, write ancient. For your understanding, you can also draw this circle like this, religion and politics, just to understand that what we are doing right now. Early medieval. Just the circle which is opposite, religion inside, politics outside. Please understand, when somebody says state, they are referring to the king, because king is the state. After all, it is autocracy, a monarchical system. So if we understand the state, if we understand the king, we understand the state. So what is happening in ancient India? As I said, I gave you two examples, Maryada Purushottam Ram and Ashok. So in this time period, the most important work of a Raja is to protect Raja Dharma. Raja Dharma, where Dharma is religion. Raja Dharma. What is Raja Dharma? Raja Dharma is to protect Varna, Ashram, Dharma. Varna, Ashram, Dharma, where Dharma means morality. So the duty of the Raja in ancient India is to protect Raja Dharma, and Raja Dharma means to protect Varna Ashram Dharma, where Dharma is morality. Now, Varna Ashram Dharma is that, first of all, understand that there are 4 Varna: Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra. So the idea is simple. Out of these 4, the first 3 who are called twice born, which is also called Dvija in Sanskrit, are allowed to go to the school. They can attend school, that Gurukul. They can become king. They can take care of the affairs of the state. And that is why they are the only ones permitted to follow Varna Ashram Dharma. Shudra is not allowed to perform Varna Ashram Dharma because he is once born Ekaj. He is Ekaj. So only the first 3 are allowed to follow Varna Ashram Dharma. Now, what is Varna Ashram Dharma? You go and join the school, Brahmacharya, where you study, you are a bachelor. Then you get married, Grihastya, after which you prepare to go to the forest, Vanaprastha, and finally you take sannyasa. So these 4 cycles of your life is only allowed for the Dvija. Now, who says that? Did the Raja say that? Or did Ram say that? Or did Ashok say that? No. It was told to us by the Vedas, particularly Rig Veda. These Vedas were always recited, so they are called Shrutis. So when you look at the Rig Veda has 10 mandals. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. The 10th mandal, mandal 10, has a very interesting shlok that is called Purusha Shukta. Purusha Shukta, which for the first time defines the Chatur Varna system in the society. So it is the Purusha Shukta which defines the Chaturvarna category for the first time, and so defines Varna Ashram Dharma. In other words, we can say this, that rulers like Ram, Dashrath, Ashok, they are following the Vedic laws. The laws that are made from the Veda is therefore called Dharma Sutra. That is ancient for you. Mandal is basically book. There are 10 volumes, consider it as volumes. Twice born, it's a good question. Hindus believe that once you are born from the womb of your mother, that is your first birth. The second birth is when you get a teacher in your life, because he trains you for life, teaches you the philosophy and the dharma. That is your second birth. That is the reason why the first three castes of this country, the Varna of this country, have a ritual at home called the Upnayan Sanskar, where you wear a janeu. Upnayan, giving of the new eye, means entering to the new life. Upnayan, twice born. Early medieval. In the early medieval section, there is a stark change. Raja is corrupt. He does not care about you. He only cares about himself. Mandal is not collectively called Dharma Sutra. Dharma Sutra is made from the Veda. Law. Okay. In early medieval period, the Raja is corrupt. Since Raja is corrupt, his interest is Digvijaya. Digvijaya. Digvijaya, which means sometimes it is also called Dharma Vijay, wrongly, but it is fine. Because here the Vijay is not happening of Dharma. It's a misnomer. People get confused. Here, Dharma means Niti, policy. Niti. The meaning of Dharma has completely changed in the early medieval period. Niti, which means the Raja will do whatever comes to his mind to enlarge his territory and become what we refer to as Chakravarti Samrat. That is his interest. He does not care about anybody. He wants to be known in all four directions, Chakravarti. All right, that's what he wants. For that, he does not pay heed to the society. So if a mother does not take care of the child will become uncivilized. And that's what happens. Varna ashram gone. Now you have Varna Sankar. Varna Sankar. Now what is Varna Sankar? Varna Sankar is, since the mother is not giving or paying heed to the child will go whatever he wants to do, he will do. So a Brahman gets married to a Kshatriya, Kshatriya gets married to a Shudra, Shudra gets married to a Vaishya, Vaishya gets married to a Nishad, Nishad gets married to a Chandal, so on and so forth. In other words, Anulom Pratilom marriages happen. Anulom Pratilom marriages happen. And this leads to a very interesting change in the society. Varna is now only in books. Nobody asks you, what is your Varna? Now, people are interested to know your Jati. Jati is born. Jati becomes the practicable working model for the state. All right, वानप्रस्थ के बाद लिखा है संन्यास. All right, Varna and Jati. So when Jati becomes important, the question that comes to our mind, that Ved never talked about jati. Ved only talked about varna. So where do you get this jati from? Who will justify this jati? So now it is the Puran which is important. The total number of Puran is 18. They are in the written form, so they are also called Smritis. In other words, the laws here are made from Puran, so you can call it Puranic laws. There's a word for that in Sanskrit. You call it Dharma Shastra. So from Dharma Sutra, you have moved towards Dharma Shastra. But look here very carefully. Here the Ved gives you law. Here the Puran gives you law. Simple. Now please understand, the Raja is intelligent. That is why he is the Raja. So whenever he comes out of his house, he cannot say to the world that he does not care. So he has to keep a masquerade, a kind of a mask over his face. So when he comes out of the house, he tells how benevolent he is, how dharmic he is. So what he does? Purta dharma. He fools people by giving gifts to Brahmins, make canals, wells, and most importantly, temples. That is the reason why NCERT writes in one sentence only. When you read temple architecture, you read that the temples began to be functional and constructed at a very large scale only in early medieval period. That is the reason why you do not see temples in ancient India, because you did not require one. Perfect. Brahmins, canals, building of canals. Canals for the people, public, but temples. Give me one example. I'm telling you. Okay, that brings the third advice. Whatever I say is Brahma Vakya. हाँ? में क्या डिफरेंस है? समझ जाओगे अभी. ये समझ में आया? So here there are two words which is important to understand, particularly one word. Puran and the Dharma Shastra. This is where you have to focus. Okay? Yes. Done? Puran. Do you watch cricket? When Rohit Sharma married the lady, that was Anilom marriage. When Anushka Sharma married Virat Kohli, that is Pratilom marriage. When the boy is from the upper caste and marrying a girl which is lower, that is Anulom. When the girl is from the upper caste and is married to the lower caste, it is Pratilom. Simple. Moving forward. सबसे पहले समझो धर्म विजय और दिग्विजय. First understand these two words. Dharma Vijay or Digvijaya. As I said, the Raja, the king, has only one target. King wants to be known in four directions. He wants to be a Chakravarti Samrat. He wants to be a Chakravarti Samrat. You will see. That's what we are here for, 2.5 hours. First you have understood the difference between ancient and early medieval. फिर हम early medieval को खोलेंगे. जब खुलेगा तो बिखर जाएगा. इसलिए संभालिए, एक एक करके संभालिए. बड़े बड़े खतरनाक शब्द है इधर. Early medieval that is the reason why early medieval nobody touches. Does goes to Digvijay. Huh? King goes to Digvijay. King does not go to Digvijay. King wants to become Digvijay. To help citizens to achieve four. Na bhaiya. Dharma Vijay, Digvijay. King wants to be known in four directions. Okay. Now let me take an example. What is your name? Vimal. What is your name? Om. Okay. Once upon a time, there was a ruler. His name was Om. And the other ruler, whose name was Vimal. Om had a dream. Om wanted to become the Raja of this earth. I mean, he wanted to be the Chakravarti Samrat. But they did not have one thing in common. They did not have money. So the answer to your question that why there is a shift is because they do not have cash. Why do not they have money? You will come to know in due course of time. For now, the given is they do not have money. But Om has a desire. So what he does, he wages a war. He wins the war. But for the first time, something else will happen. Om is not Ram. Vimal is not Ravana. So Ravan would not be killed here. Rather, no annexation will happen. No annexation. Do you know the word annexation? Good. फिर भी बता दूं. When you annex, you take the head of the Raja. Here you do not annex, means you are not killing Vimal. The question is why? The answer is very simple. Om did not have cash also. So he did not want to incur administrative expense that may come to him if he kills Vimal. If he kills Vimal, he has to establish a new government here, which means he will have to pay salary to the people. He does not have that money. So what he does, he calls Vimal and he gives him a chance. He says, Vimal, if you pledge for loyalty, if you declare right now, if you take out your hat and sit in front of me, kneel down and say that you are going to work for me, I will leave you. You have to pledge for loyalty. If you pledge for loyalty, I will allow you to maintain your land the way you were doing before, law and order. Everything will remain the same. Yes, you can also keep an army. An army you have to keep, a standing army. But this army you will not use for me. This you will give to Om, to king. Here the king is Om, at war. What if I want to go in other direction and I need help? At war. Number 4. Since you are loyal to me, you do not have to pay any tax. No tax. You do not pay any tax to me. But since I am senior to you, I hope you would be sending me annual tributes. Once you do all this, I will make this land non-transferable. It will remain with your family forever, which also means this land would be hereditary for your family. These 4 points, these 7 points. That is Digvijaya. Digvijaya, बहुत ध्यान से देखिए बोर्ड को और बताइए, do you see religion anywhere? बोलो. कौन कलेक्ट करेगा रेवेन्यू? ओम रेवेन्यू कलेक्ट करेगा कैसे? चिड़िया भेजेगा, आदमी भेजेगा, उसको तनख्वाह देनी पड़ेगी. तनख्वाह कैसे आएगा बताओ? अरे पैसा कहां से आएगा इतना पूछ रहा हूं. तुमको सैलरी कैसे देगा? ओम तुमको हायर करता है कि जाओ विमल के क्षेत्र से रेवेन्यू कलेक्ट करके लाओ. तुम्हारी तनख्वाह 1 तारीख को कैसे आएगी बताओ? रेवेन्यू से आएगी. रेवेन्यू तुम 10 तारीख को लाओगे, 15 तारीख तक वो अकाउंट में आएगा, उसके बाद दोगे. तुमको तनख्वाह 1 तारीख को चाहिए. अभी ऊपर में लिखा तो नो कैश. पैसा है ही ना, दोगे क्या? ठन गोपाल हो तुम. लिखा हुआ साफ साफ है यार, बुद्धि तो लगाओ थोड़ा. ये क्लास 6ठी में दिया हुआ है, एनसीईआरटी में पढ़ा है आपने? नहीं दिखा है सब? अब देखो, दैट इज धर्म विजय और दिग्विजय. देयर इज नो रिलीजन हियर. सो नाउ नंबर 2, you have to give some space to religion also. Number 2, एनुअल ट्रिब्यूट क्या होता है? ग्रेजुएशन किस सब्जेक्ट में आपका? ओके. आपकी बहन है, शादी हो गई उनकी? नहीं. जब शादी होगी, एक आपके पापा टीडीएस देते होंगे सरकार को, वो टैक्स है दोस्त. पर जब आपके पापा अपने दामाद जी को सूट भिजवाएंगे ना हर दिवाली पर, और मालदा आम पहुंचवाएंगे, वो ट्रिब्यूट कहलाता है दोस्त. जैसे मान लीजिए आपके घर में किसी की और की शादी है, आपको अपने दामाद जी को बुलाना है, तो दामाद जी मांगेंगे नहीं, आपको खुद रेमंड्स का सूट देना पड़ेगा उनको. नहीं, इट्स नॉट गिफ्ट, इट्स ट्रिब्यूट. आपके होने के लिए थैंक यू. आपके होने के लिए थैंक यू. आप हैं. यू विल सी. तभी तो कलयुग है. वो चाहो तो मैं अभी बता दूंगा, पर तुमको समझ में घंटा आएगा. वेट, एक एक करके चलेंगे. ये अर्ली मिडिवल है. नॉन ट्रांसफरेबल बाबू इस तरह से कि मान लो विमल साहब जौनपुर में पोस्टेड हैं, तो इनको अगले दिन लखनऊ नहीं भेजा जाएगा. ये जौनपुर में तटस्थ बैठे हुए हैं. समझ रहे हैं? that is what is meant by non transferable. जो आपकी कॉन्स्टिट्यूएंसी है, आप वहीं के एमपी हैं. बिल्कुल. समझ आई बात? नॉन ट्रांसफरेबल मीन्स नॉन ट्रांसफरेबल. इंग्लिश. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, सर अलेक्जेंडर वेयर ही गो ही विन बट गिव टू लूज राजा. संस्कार. अलेक्जेंडर इज नॉट इंडियन. Let's focus on India. Okay. Number 2, there is no religion here, so he uses religion. Now a religion would be used as a tool, which happens for the first time in India. So Om, after winning, will place a very big stone slab at the gates of his empire. एक बहुत बड़ा सा तख्ता लगवाएगा और कहेगा, I, the best Kshatriya of the world, give Vimal a second chance. I, Om, the one who is married to Lakshmi, I, Om, who is married to Mother Earth, give an uncouth, uncivilized Kshatriya, Vimal, a second chance. ये सब झूठ है. You understand? He is justifying his annexation, his win through religion. He is using religion as a tool. That is Kaliyug. And this stone slab has a name. You call it Prasishti. That is early medieval. That is why when Samudragupta places his Prashishti in Banaras, that's what he is doing. He is celebrating his Dharma Vijaya. That is what is meant by Digvijay or Dharma Vijay. Now comes the second important terminology, and that is Dharma Shastra. No. Religion is that he is doing dharmic thing, no? He is destroying the evil. That is religion. That वही तो धर्म है और क्या है? प्रशिष्टि. इस शब्द को बोलना मत. ओके? बिल्कुल. गाजे बाजे के साथ लोगों को बताएगा. Posters लगवाएगा. He will put posters for this. And the language that he will use is obviously Sanskrit. So that is one. Difference between Varna and Jati. It's a good question. Very good question. Varna is something that you are born into and occupy according to your speciality. Jati is when occupation plus your regional variance plus your marriage entitlement comes along. That is jati. All right. Purana. The total number of Puran were 18 in number. These Puran were written in Sanskrit. Who wrote these Puran? Obviously, the Brahmins. Since Brahmins wrote Puran and that was written in Sanskrit, it was the language which was not spoken by the people of this country. Only the Dwij can understand. That gives the power to the Brahmins. Do you want to see an example? Hansa Sweta Baka Sweta Ko Bhedo Baka Hansayo. Nir Chir Viveketu Hanso Hansa Bako Baka. What did you understand? Exactly, Ghanta. So the Brahmins chose a language to write and make laws which you cannot understand. And from here comes Dharma Shastra. So they used Puran to make Dharma Shastra, and Dharma Shastra was also written in Sanskrit. The total number of Dharma Shastra in this country is 24. So from 18 Puran will come 24 Dharma Shastra. And these Dharma Shastra are together known as, all the 24 are together known as Chaturvimshati Mat. Chaturvimshati Mat. So can we say that the Dharma Shastra, which are 24 in number, are nothing else but the book of code of conduct for the people living in a state? Can we give this code of conduct? Code of conduct is English. Let us give a Sanskrit name for it. Vyavahara. Vyavahara. Do you know the literal translation of Vyavahar in English? No. Ethics. That is why UPSC has a paper on this. So if UPSC asks, ethics came in this country in which time period? The answer is early medieval. If they asked you this question, ethics comes from, the answer is Dharma Shastra. Understood? Ethics. Now, this ethics can be two ways. A, it can be for the common people, commoners. You can simply call them subjects. For them, it can be legally binding. अगर ये समझ गए तो यूपीएससी इजी होना शुरू हो जाएगा. That's how you connect subjects. बहुत ध्यान से सुनना इसको. If it is, the book is for everybody, no? So for commoners it can be legally binding, but for the state, who is actually the king, it is never legally binding. It is only morally binding. Morally binding. Can you have an example today? Can you have an example today? Fundamental duties. Can you have an example today? Directive principle of the state policies. So who says that the constitution is out of the religion? 1/3 of the constitution comes from the ethics of the Dharma Shastra even today. And that is the understanding that you need to have. समझ आई बात? धर्मशास्त्र चतुर्विंशति मत. So there are 24. You do not have to remember all. At least 4. 4 तो याद कर लो जीएस के लिए. Number 1 and number 2 are the first two. Number 1 and number 2. The first one is Manu Smriti, and the other is Yajna Valka Smriti. Yajna Valka Smriti. These two, sir, FDs are legally binding. श्वेतांग, कोविड में हो ये रहा था दोस्त कि तुम गाड़ी के अंदर अकेले बैठे थे बिना मास्क लगाए, एक ऐसे करके आदमी ठोकता था गेट, तुम गेट नीचे करते थे, तुम 2000 रुपया देते थे. पता है क्यों? क्योंकि सरकार का एक नोटिफिकेशन था, यू हैव टू वियर द मास्क. तुम बोलोगे अकेले बैठे हैं, वो तुम्हारे कुल्ले तोड़ देगा, देना पड़ेगा. लीगली बाइंडिंग. कैन बी लीगली बाइंडिंग। यूपीएससी वही क्लियर करेगा जिसकी आंखें खुली हैं, जब रोड पर चलता है तो उसको चीजें दिखती हैं। इफ यू आर अ पर्सन हु इज वेल इन्फॉर्म्ड, दिस एग्जामिनेशन इज फॉर यू, अदरवाइज आपको हर चीज रटना पड़ेगा। ऑल राइट, मनुस्मृति, यज्ञवल स्मृति। नाउ कम्स नंबर 3, which comes from Manusmriti, number 3, and that is by a man whose name is Jimutvahan. Jimutvahan. He writes a very interesting book called Daya Bhag. Daya Bhag. And number 4 is Vigyaneshwar, who writes his book according to Yajnavalkya Smriti. His name, the name of the book is Mitakshar. UPSC 2021 PT question. Now, why these two books are important, do you know? Because these two books are going to define the Indian property rights. Property rights. These books are the books of inheritance, property laws, both of them, which was binding on the people of India till 2015. All right, property laws on Indians. So if you think that Dharma Shastra is gone and you are not affected by it, you are wronged. So Mitakshar and Dayabhag define the property rights of this country until 2015. You will see. That is the importance of early medieval in the modern period. लिख लिया? Now we have to make a parallel for Dayabhag and Mitakshar. वही बताने जा रहा हूं दोस्त, लिख लिया? तुम किस पे बैठे हो? अरबी घोड़े पर बैठ गए हो क्या? उतरो वहां से, काठियावाड़ी पकड़ो। Mitakshar means, Mitakshar is a noun since it is a book. Vigyaneshwar is a Homo sapien sapien because he is a human with a cranial capacity of 1350 cc. Okay. These two books are also, as I said, followed till 2015. What were these two books called together? Hindu Law Code. Hindu Law Code is based on two books. One is Dayabhag and the other is Mitakshar. Dayabhag and Mitakshar. Number 1, it is based on Manusmriti. This is based on Yajnavalkya Smriti. I will just write Yajnavalkya. Number 2, Dayabhag, followed only in one region, followed in Bengal since Pala dynasty of Bengal. Mitakshar was followed across India since Chauhans, पृथ्वीराज चौहान्स, आई होप यू नो पृथ्वीराज चौहान. चौहान बोलते हैं, चहमान लिखते हैं. ऑल राइट. सो नंबर 3, हियर द सन does not own property, गलती मत करना, साफ साफ लिखना. does not own property until father lives. बाप को मारना होगा तुमको. Father lives. If he is alive, you do not get property. On the other hand, the father, the son, and the grandson, how many generations? 3 generations. co-own the property. Here you do not have to kill anybody. As you are born, you are a property holder. Number 4. What if the person is married? So the wife, there would be a wife. Wife co-sharer in husband's property. Here, number 4, wife is the guardian of the property. Guardian of the property. Number 5, what if you have a girl child? अगर लड़की हुई तो? So if you have a girl child, girl gets Stridhan. That is gold in the marriage. Stridhan. Stridhan. Number 5, girl is a property. बात खत्म. Number 6. Number 6. Division of the property allowed. Division of the property allowed, which means if there are 4 children, the father is dead, all of them get the property, you sell your share, from that money you buy a small 1 BHK flat in Mumbai. No problem. In other words, it gives you leverage for a nuclear family. Whereas here, division not allowed. So it promotes joint family system. Once you have understood these 2 words, Dharma Shastra and Dharma Vijay, now you are ready to jump into early medieval. Now you will understand why this is happening, why suddenly the Raja has become corrupt. को-शेयर का मतलब दोस्त ये होता है कि कल होकर के जब ब्राह्मण तुम्हारी पूजा करवाएगा सत्यनारायण भगवान का, तो तुम्हारे पिता के साथ तुम्हारी माता श्री भी बैठेंगी और वो रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी होल्ड करेंगी. She has the possessive right over the property. When you are a guardian, it means your son are still minor. Till the time the son becomes major, you are going to protect the property like a guardian. Later on, you have to transfer it to the sons. The mother here does not have any value. That is the reason why across India, you have examples like Rani Lakshmi Bai, Savitri Bai, Tara Bai, who are not ruling on by themselves. They are ruling on the behalf of their sons who are minor, because they all followed Mitakshara. Savitri Bai is not that Savitri Bai. There is a Jajika Bhukti rule queen, not Savitri Bai of Maharashtra. कितना सिंपल है दोस्त. कोई बात छोड़ दो, बोलो तो समझो तुम्हारे काम का नहीं, सोच एग्जाम में नहीं आएगा. स्त्री धन का मतलब क्या होता है? स्त्री का धन क्या है? सुनो, इसको पता है. तुम कहां पर मार्स से आए हो? अब ऐसे ऐसे करके रुकेंगे तो हुआ फिर. गर्ल इज अ प्रॉपर्टी का मतलब गर्ल के ऊपर अपना हक नहीं है, इसीलिए महाखाप लगता है हरियाणा में. लड़की शादी करके देख ले, काट देंगे उसको, बिकॉज बाप उस पर उसका हक समझता है. हम बेचेंगे जहां बेचेंगे. समझ रहे हो? यही तो स्त्री बताया तो उस लड़की ने, जब तुम्हारी शादी होगी तो तुम्हारी बेगम साहिबा सोना लेकर आएंगी. आएंगी ना? वही है स्त्री का धन जो तुम पहनने नहीं दोगे. Early medieval. For the king, early medieval means three things. धर्म विजय, धर्म शास्त्र, and purta dharma. That is the crux of early medieval. Dharma vijay, dharma shastra, purta dharma. Now the question that should come to your mind is why the king is behaving like this? Why the king is behaving like this? It means there is some change. The politico-economic change in India. There is some change which is happening. Change during this time. There is something which is changing, which is disturbing the Raja. Because why somebody will suddenly become corrupt? Number one, political decentralization. Now you have very small kingdoms across India. छोटे-छोटे kingdoms बन गए हैं. Political decentralization. There are many rulers at this point in time. Why this is happening? And since this is happening, so if let us say you have a kingdom which is a small kingdom, and then there is another kingdom which is a small kingdom, every kingdom will have staffs. So you have many administrative wings. Emergence of landed middlemen. In better English, they are called intermediaries. The rise of middlemen. And why this is happening? So point number 3 is the most special of all. Put a star. Because there is decline in trade, decline in urban economy. There is no money. In the bracket you may write no cash. Since there is a decline in the urban economy, the markets have collapsed. Markets collapsed. There is no money for the Raja to give to give salary. आपके पास पैसे ही नहीं बचे. You do not have money to give salary to anybody. But then something interesting happens. Revival of the rural economy. The rural economy survives. Why? Because it is based on barter system. And since it is based on barter system, India does not speak English. So they have a name for it. They call it Jajmani system. The barter system that is followed in the villages. Jajmani system. अब तुम ध्यान से देखो. If there is no money, if there is no market, and if you are the state, where do you get your revenue from? Where do you impose your taxes on? Who do you actually take money from? The only place is the village. So here happens the subjugation of, you subject them, you oppress them, peasantry of peasants. You subjugate them further, और पैसे निकालते हो. And since the Raja does not have money, even you do not have money, so why would you listen to the Raja? So what do? You go for intermarriage, emergence of jati. UPSC wants you to learn one jati, which was the most interesting jati to be formed this time. Rajputs. Rajputs did not exist in ancient India. Rajputs पैदा हुए पहली बार. How? Huh? Who connected what? Understand it like this. Let us say you are a Brahman. Alright. And you are a poor Brahman. Daridra Brahman. You have a child. You teach him good lessons. You be a dharmic. Follow the dharma. Alright. Be a Brahman. Go become a Purohit. Next to your house is a Vaishya. Alright. Baniya class. He has money. He has land, he produces. Your son looks at you and looks at your cloth. Then he looks at that baniya and he looks at his cloth. So he decides once he turns 18, let me marry baniya's daughter. At least I will have good clothes to wear. You understand what happened? Sometimes you do not marry because you love somebody. Number 7, when you have emergence of so many jatis, what is barter system? It's a very good question. What is barter? It's a very good question. Dictionary. Since you have so many jatis, every jati will have their heroes. You tell me, whether you are 5 people in your community or whether you are 50,000, would you like that your ancestors and your heroes are not celebrated? What if your God is made fun by me? Would you like it? Exactly. You want your gods to be celebrated. Bhakti movement and Tantricism will grow. That is why Bhakti movement will not happen in ancient India. It will only happen in medieval India. Second point is landed intermediaries, the people working for different political entities. You will see. For example, in the last case, Vinay was the landed intermediary for Om. Understand it like this. Sixth point is emergence of jati. There is nothing to explain, just write. All these 7 points. Obviously, we did not speak English. We spoke Sanskrit, and Puran was written in this time period. So the Puran, which is written in Sanskrit, calls all these 7 things the rise of Kali Yuga. इसी को कलयुग कहते हैं. What is the attribute of Kali Yuga? The 7 points plus 3. But we Indians who are educated call it Indian feudalism or Samanta system. Indian feudalism or Samanta system. हाँ, क्योंकि इसको लिख के समझने वाले हैं. पहले लिख रहे हैं, किताब पढ़ते हो, पहले कंटेंट पेज होता है, फिर ऑब्जेक्टिव होता है, फिर लेट अस बिगिन होता है. तो पहले पॉइंट लिख लोगे तभी तो समझोगे. मैंने पहले समझा दे तो पॉइंट कैसे लिखोगे? सब चाचा चौधरी यहां पर. अभी तक समझ में नहीं आया पैटर्न ऑफ द स्टडी. अभी कहते पहले क्या किया हमने? पहले यहां पर हमने तोड़ा, इसको तोड़ा, फिर इसमें इंपॉर्टेंट शब्द समझे, वही किया ना. तो वही यहां पर भी करने वाले हैं. नहीं, ये है अब सारे तोड़ने. जब तक तोड़ेंगे नहीं, जब तक तुम जाओगे नहीं. So the first question is, where was the money coming from? How can I ask a question to sir? You just type, and if I like the question, I will reply. Okay? So where the money comes from and what happened that the money stopped coming? This is a rough sketch of how India would look like. And here, somewhere, was the famous Byzantine Empire. Byzantine Empire. And here lied China. Byzantine Empire and China. The Byzantine and the Chinese would trade on a route. You called it Silk Route. So the Indian merchants will go on this route and do their business. You can call them Indian merchants. So Indian merchants will go across the Hindu Kush, will stay on this route and will do trade for the Byzantine. Understood? So much lucrative was this trade, that the 2 important positions here and here, they flourished. They are the 2 ports of North India. One is Daibul, which is on the Indus basin, and the other is Tamralipti. they flourished. इतना पैसा आता था that people started calling this time period the golden age. The Byzantine will buy silk from China, so they will have to pay. They paid in gold coins. Their gold coin was called drachma. Drachma. Their gold coin was called drachma. So they came with drachma, they bought the silk, Indian merchants got drachma, and that money came to India. Take that money came to India. Daibul and Tamralipti flourished. That is the proof. It flourished. But suddenly something happened in 550 CE. In 550 CE, Byzantine people stole the silkworm. They stole the silkworm. Within 50 years, they learned how to produce their own silk. Who? Byzantine. So when that happened, they stopped coming to the Silk Route. Indian merchants lost their employment, their business. Tamralipti declined, and so did Daibul. Why? Why this silk trade is so important for India? For that you have to connect. The empire in India at this time was Guptas, the Gupta Empire. Can anybody tell me the name of the gold coin of the Guptas? In the books you will find a name, Suvarna. Suvarna. That is the name of the gold coin. That is incorrect. That is what we call it normally. The exact name of the Gupta coin was Dramya, which is nothing else but drachma. Gangadhar ही शक्तिमान है. Do you understand? Why? Because India does not have gold of its own. It depends on the gold from the outside world. That is why the gold reserves are fixed outside of India. Thanks to that, that is why the Indian economy still survives. All right. India does not have its gold. So you depend on the gold from outside. So since there was no drachma, there was no, and since there was no dram, there was no cash. And since there was no cash, urban decline. बात समझ आया? इसलिए इंतजार करो, सब अपने टाइम पर होगा. तुम्हारे इम्पेशंस से तुम कल आईएएस नहीं बन रहे हो. एग्जाम अपने टाइम पर होगा. If you have seen COVID period, and if you remember, what happens, अगर आपसे सवाल पूछ दिया गया, discuss the COVID period, आप शुरुआत करेंगे sentence. It was an unprecedented time. Everything was under lockdown. ये लिखोगे ना, but तुमको भी पता ये झूठ है. Everything was not under lockdown. Ask the boys who normally those boys who normally sit at the back. Ask them कि तुमको तुम्हारा माल मटेरियल मिल रहा था? मिल रहा था. Those boys, every group of boy have certain people who are leader. We call them Chaudhary. All right, you just have to give them a call कि भाई, bro, the H2O is missing. If you can send it with some adjustment with the Reamer-Teamer reaction, can you convert ether into ester? And they will help you. They will ask 50 rupees more, but they will. In other words, when you say that it was in complete lockdown, it is incorrect. Some markets were still operating. These Indian merchants returned back to India. In the COVID period, vegetable shops were open, pharmacy was open, few shops. And that is how we Indians in North India survived for 400 years, 600 to 1000, 400 years, because of four important points. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. These are the four places on the map of North India where trade happened. Flickering trade, flickering, but trade happened. Some form of trade which supported and helped Indians survive. Number 1 is Prithu Dak. Prithu Dak today falls in Haryana. You call it Pehowa. It's a village now, Haryana. Number 2 is a very famous spot. You call it Gopagiri. Gopagiri today is known as Gwalior. Number 3 is Siyadoni and Lalitpur. You today call this area the Jhansi region. And number 4 is Tat Anandpur. Which is Bundelkhand region. अब समझ आया why India does not have cash? अब यहां से बातें शुरू होंगी. India did not have cash. क्या पूजा? India does not have gold or silver. Yes, who decides the gold reserves of this country? The gold rates is decided by which economy? Exactly. So that is decided outside of India. If it would have been decided in India, a place which has paucity of gold, the gold rates would have fluctuated bonkers. नहीं समझ आया? आपका आपने इकोनॉमिक्स पढ़ा है? जो आरबीआई के रिजर्व्स होते हैं वो आरबीआई सोना लाती कहां से है? सोना आता कहां पे उसके पास? आरबीआई के पास सोना है कहां से? Where does the reserve come from? Exactly, we buy. We buy so that we can store. We don't have so that we have. US does not have that problem. So does Japan or China. They have their gold. So they have a gold reserve which they do not have to buy. You buy to have a reserve so that your currency has a standing in the market. That is how your PPP is defined according to different countries. You have to buy to have a reserve. If you did not have to buy, then your reserve would have been your reserve. बात समझ में आया? I don't get Hindi. When I am speaking in Hindi, I do not want you to listen. That is the whole point. I want to keep away from all the negativities in life. So when I am speaking English, that is what is important. When I am speaking Hindi, either I am abusing somebody or making fun of somebody, which I am very talented at. So if I am speaking in Hindi, do not worry. You are not missing anything. So have you understood this? There is no money. पूछ लो आज तुम. देख बेटा, सोना आया बाहर से, the gold comes from outside. They scrap everything off and they put their own faces. That's how they worked. Right, feudalism. Right, feudalism. Okay, and then make a pyramid. Break it like this. Break it like this. Here, towards this side, write Europe. So one side of the pyramid will discuss the European feudalism. On the other side, we discuss the Indian feudalism. That is how it will happen. Comparative study. Because feudalism as a term has come from Europe. Okay. Here, in Europe, the highest authority is the king. The highest authority is the king. In India, the highest authority is a Maharaja. Okay. Maharaja. Then comes vassal. The vassal, who can be named duke, they can be called lord, they can be called baron, they can be called archbishop, they can be called knight. There are different terms used for them. We do not have to go into the details of European feudalism because it is not important. Important is here. In India, we call the vassal a bhogika. Bhogika. This is important for us. Bhogika. Here, they are known as Raja, Rana, Rawat, Ranaka. Raja, Rana, Rawat, Ranaka, Thakur, बहुत सारे नाम होते हैं. These are the common ones. Okay? And finally, the last box we will discuss after some time. I mean, 2 minutes, 3 minutes later. पहले यहाँ समझो. We will do the comparative understanding. The king in Europe is the owner of the land. Owner of the land. Maharaja in India does not own the land. That is the first basic difference. Does not own land. He does not own land. He simply is a guardian. He is just a guardian. Understand Maharaja as the principal of your college who does not own the college but can rusticate you. That is the Maharaja, because by default, by definition, he is a Kshatriya, and the role of the Kshatriya according to the Dharma is to protect. He is the guardian. He does not own the land. That is the first basic difference. But then, even the king in England who has a kingdom, it is his kingdom, he does not have money, no cash, we just saw. Even they do not have money because feudalism. Even they do not have money, the same condition. Since they did not have money, you have to pay a salary to the vassal, no? Why would a vassal work for you if you do not give him salary? But you cannot give him salary in cash. So what do? You take a small piece of land from your kingdom and you give him it as a salary. You call it fief. So what is fief? What is the definition of fief? Fief is a piece of land, a land given in lieu of salary. आप क्या सैलरी किसी को दे देंगे? Would you give salary to anyone? No, there has to be conditions. Number one, you have to be loyal. You have to maintain. You can tell me, you have already done this. Law and order. Then you have to maintain army. You do not have to pay tax, so it is non-taxable. Non-taxable. Number 5, you have to pay annual tribute. It has to be hereditary and non-transferable. यही पढ़ा था ना? In the case of Vimal, non-transferable. The same definition that you have written before. The same thing is done. So you can just replace king with Om and vassal with Vimal. You get the same thing. Okay? The same problem is in India also. The Maharaja has a piece of land, which is his kingdom. His kingdom is called Desh. Desh. His kingdom is called Desh. So he takes a big piece of land, which here is called Bhog, which is given to the vassal who is called a Bhogika as salary. So the definition of Bhog and the definition of fief is exactly the same. So I'm not writing it here again. I'm just writing do. Exact same definition. There is no change. There is no change. Now, what is happening in the last box? What is happening here? To understand that, we have to go and make another circle below it or on the other sheet if you do not have space. Okay? Done? बढ़ू आगे? Shall we go ahead? So look at the fief. Let us make this circle and call this fief. If you want, you can also call it bhog, your wish. Fief or bhog. Now this fief is given to a vassal. Let us call him lord. A lord gets it. Now we said, Kashish is asking a question. Maharaja do not own land. Then how he give it as a salary? Kashish, just write he does. Khattam. That's it. Full stop. Exclamation. He does. UPSC will not ask you why. They will ask you question. You tick. You become IAS officer. Then you do your business. You don't have to care about these things. Academics. Just remember what you have been told. The king does not own the land. Full stop. अभी तो बताया that Kshatriya is a protector. It is written in your dharma. अभी बताया था ना. The Lord is going to live here for life because it is his hereditary property. So the first thing that he does is he builds a castle because he's going to live here. Hereditary property. Then he is going to take another piece of land because he has to maintain an army, and to maintain an army he has to make them practice every day. Let us call it Cant area. For our understanding, simple words. Cant area. But please understand, when this lord was given this land already belonged to somebody else. It already belonged. It was not Thar desert. It was a land where people lived. After all, he has to take his salary from here. So imagine, these are the plots of the land where people already lived. यहाँ पर लोग रहते हैं. People already lived. And these people who have this piece of land is called a peasant. Who is a peasant? Peasant is the one who owns a plot of land. Now you tell me, how many owners can exist of a land in Europe? You tell me, how many owners of land can exist in Europe in one point in time? 3. The king owns the land, the lord has it as a hereditary property, and the third is a peasant. 3 owners of a single plot of land. Abhi to likha. 3 people own one single plot of land. So everybody wants to become the only one who has the land. It is a feudal world where wars happen at the drop of the hat. When the wars happen, the taxes go up. Who will pay the tax? Only or somebody else also? Lord also? Lord also? Very nice, my friend. You have just written non-taxable. Annual tribute is not tax. शिकारी आएगा, जाल बिछाएगा, दाना डालेगा, फंसना नहीं. Tax is only paid by the peasant. When the taxes go up, the peasant cannot pay, so he takes debt. He goes under debt because he has taken loan. He goes under debt. He takes loan. What is the only collateral that he has? The plot of land. He gives the plot of land, and suddenly he is no more a peasant. He becomes a tenant who does not have freedom. He has lost 2 things. He lost his plot, and the second thing that he lost was freedom of movement. Freedom of movement. These 2 are lost. ये दोनों खो गया वो. There is no movement. He cannot go anywhere else until he pays his debt. All right. So to keep him busy, the vassal says, what you are doing at night? क्या करते हो रात में तुम? Once you finish the work, come to me. Give your service free of cost, free labor. Give me your labor in my castle. Come and sweep my floors. Corvi. Corvi. That's what it is called. Corvi. Forced free labor for the vassal. Now happens the last important change. And the last important change is, one day, the tenant is called by the vassal and he says, what are you doing tonight? He says, sir, I have work. I will come and mop the floor. He says, no, this time don't come. Send your wife. Send your wife. So when a tenant loses the last straw, and that is called his dignity, he is a serf. वो एक सर्फ बन जाता है, who has got nothing to him, not even his dignity. So 1 minute, you go back to the pyramid and write here, serf. Now what I'm going to tell you next is important, but you may not understand it in one go if you have not understood India. If you have understood India, if you have seen India, and if you have been to villages, you will understand. If you have interactions with people, then you will understand. The Lord ki jagah par, let us say there is a Raja or a Rana, whatever you want to call. Okay? He has a castle, he has a cant area, the same structure in India now. This is called Bhog. I am using the same structure for India. Here the land belongs to the peasant. Peasant owns a plot of land. The Raja, Maharaja calls for a war. The peasant takes a loan. He becomes a tenant. He loses his plot. He loses the freedom of movement. Here it is called Vishti or Biti or Veti. So Korvi in India is known as Vishti in North India, Biti in Dakkan, and Visht and Veti in South India. I have given you 3 terms for 3 different regions. Vishti, Biti, Veti. Alright, that is the forced labor. Understood? Then one day, the Raja says, bring your wife. The peasant who has become a tenant listens to him. He says, why not, sir? And then, in the middle of the night, he runs away. In India, serf does not exist. That is the last important difference. Everything an Indian will lose, not his dignity. You know why? Not because he loves his dignity, but there is some other reason. A serf does not exist in India. Why? A serf does not exist in India. Why? ये इकोनॉमिक्स की किताबों में नहीं मिलेगा, ये हिंदुस्तान के रोड पर मिलेगा. You will not understand this in the books. For that, you have to have an understanding. Huh? Varna system. Tell me how.
The caste differences and like.
Give me an example.
I mean, at that time, untouchables could have become untouchables.
Let me tell you, a Brahman can easily sleep with an untouchable. When a Brahman sleeps with a Shudra, a Nishad is born. When a Nishad sleeps with a Brahman, a Chandal is born. पैदा कर सकते हो, बस प्रॉपर्टी नहीं देना. इतना टाइम नहीं है, समझो इसको. Let us say this Raja Sahab, who is a lord, is a Yadav ji. आंसर सही था पर गलत बताया. Yadav ji. And there is a peasant who lives here who is a Tripathi ji. Now imagine a Yadav ji saying a Tripathi ji to bring his wife at home. Panditain nahi jayegi. After all, she is a Brahman. So half of the population was saved from becoming a serf because of Varna hierarchy. Why serf does not exist? Because of Varna hierarchy. That is reason number 1. Number 2, what about the lower caste? They can come. What if a Yadav wants to call, let us say, somebody who is below him? Even that cannot happen, because India is a very beautiful country where you have 9 months direct sunlight. 8.5 months or 9 months, which means most fertile land. We are talking about a period when the population was not too much. It's not Europe, which is bland, which is all connected. Have you been to Europe? It takes 2 hours to move from one state to the other. You are in France, 2 hours later you are in Italy. All right, you drive furthermore, you may go to Hungary and Austria, you will reach in 2 hours. One train, that's it. Take a train for 2 hours from Delhi and you think you will reach Bihar. No. So here, The land is so fertile, the serf will wait for the midnight and then he will run to the forest and he will start cultivating. He does not care. The lands are fertile. He does not want to be sitting here only looking for his land. He will run and have his own land. You understand? So why serf does not exist? Because of the Varna hierarchy and because of the geographical, topographical conditions of this country. These two reasons. So who is there in the last box? War captives, slaves, peasants. Everybody can exist except a serf. Serf does not exist in India. Absolute statement. Now we are going into the details of it. It was just the tip of the iceberg. This is a big piece of land. From here, a Raja gives bhog. Bhog is given to a bhogika, correct? That's what we have seen. I have a question for you. What makes bhog feudal? Or what makes any land feudal? I'll repeat the question. Imagine that there is a village. In that village lives a very old man, and that old man is me. And I have 100 acres of land. There is a boy who lives in that village. My children have left, they have gone somewhere. They are not coming back. They are settled in America and Europe. And this boy who lives in the village keeps on asking me, how are you? He takes care of me, brings medicines to me. And before my death, I have a feeling for this child. He is poor. So what I do is, I write 20 acres of my land to this boy. Will this 20 acres be qualified as a feudal land? Yes or no? Tell me. No? Yes. Yes. The answer is yes and no, both. Because a land is never feudal. What makes a land feudal is two rights given along with the land. So if I give 20 acres of land to the boy, it is not bhog. But when I give 20 acres of that land to the boy with two rights, then it becomes a bhog. So what are these two rights? What are these two rights? Right number one, the right to administer, which we have written already, but we have used another term. We wrote maintain law and order. But remember here, it is only civil only right. Civil rights. Maintain law and order. The second right is right to get cultivated or cultivate. Right to get cultivated. Bole to, I have given 20 acres to somebody. Now it is his wish whether he wants to keep 20 acres for him completely or divides it into 4 equal halves, give it to 4 people, give it on rent and earn rent from it. जिसको गांव में कहते हैं बटाई system, contractual farming. In other words, he can give it on batai, bataidari system, contractual. Everybody sitting in this room who has a piece of land and sitting here patiently and without any problem thinking about a land, their land, is because you have given your piece of land to somebody else to cultivate. Batai system. Understood? Do we have a reference of this? Because if we have the reference of this, we can prove that feudalism existed. Nasik inscription. 2nd century. Belongs to a man, his name is Gautami. Putra. Satkarni. He was a Satvahana ruler. Dakkan. And he is the first one to ever give a bhog to Buddhist monasteries. That is the first recorded reference of a bhog in India. Okay? Always remember, when that old man, in that example me, gave 20 acres of that land to that boy, which could be you, and when I gave you these two rights, I always knew that maybe one day my children will come back. Maybe. All right. However benevolent I am to that boy, I will always keep two rights on the land. Two symbolic rights of the king. So before transferring this land, I keep two rights for myself on that land. Two rights. Right number one, it's a very interesting right. Sub-earth right. Sub-earth right, which also includes, because it is sub-earth, below the earth, it also includes mining. I hope you understand. In fact, I should not write mining separately. Mining is part of sub-earth, but I write it so that it is very clear to you. Mining rights. ये बात याद रखना. Keep it in your mind and keep it and lock it. When you buy a piece of land in this country, if you have a piece of land in this country, whether it is your ancestral property, whether it is you who is going to buy it later, you only own 8.5 inches of the earth's crust. That's it. 8.5 inch. Below that, whatever is belongs to the state. But then there is a catch. Dharma Shastra. Remember, can be legally binding. Never legally binding on the state. So imagine you have a piece of land. You are digging your land and you found a skeleton and a box of gold. Skeleton belongs to you. The box belongs to the state. समझ आई बात? That is the condition. Sub-earth right, mining right. In those days, the most important thing that was coming from sub-earth, याद रखना, sub-earth is not only that which you are standing on. Sub-earth can be that cave also where you stand in. Salt tax. That is the reason why salt tax was always taken by the king. Sardar, मैंने तो आपका, becomes the symbolic right of submission. That is the reason why Gandhi went for Dandi March. Symbolic breaking of the chains, because salt belongs always to the state. Number two, इसी को, the same sub-earth right cannot be written in our records because we speak Sanskrit. So Kalidas had given a term for this. Kalidas calls it the sub-earth right. You have heard this word before. Vetan. 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 In which book? The famous book, Raghuvansham. The second right, criminal right. You see, only civil right here. So criminal right is with the ruler, with the king. Since he has the criminal right, it is he who is the only authority to give capital punishment. The order of death can only be given by the king, capital punishment. Why? Which tells you that it is the responsibility of the main Raja to maintain Kat and Bhat. Who is Kat and Bhat? Police and judge respectively. Police and judge is central administration always. So whether you are a feudal lord, whether you aren't, in your area, the police would be sent by the king. So it means who pays their salary? The king. But for the last 1 hour, I am speaking at the top of my voice and screeching and saying that there is no. So if there is no cash, don't you think that at one point of time it would be very difficult for the Raja to pay them salary? So a time comes in the history when this right number 2 is transferred to Bhogika, because it is very hard for the Raja to maintain the salary. Don't you think if we have such a proof, we can prove it that feudalism came in India? If we can prove this, 5th century, Vakatakas, we have found their inscription, which belongs to a ruler. His name is Pravarsena. Pravarsena II. The Vakataka inscription of Pravarsena II mentions this fact, that in the 5th century, he transferred his second right, criminal right, to his feudal lords. That means feudalism has seeped in. All right. So these are the two proofs to tell you that feudalism existed. But then another question comes to the mind. Vakatakas, not a very great empire. Satavahanas, all right, great empire, but only one example. So can we have an evidence of any mighty empire? Any mighty empire? Can we have evidence from any mighty empire of India where we can see feudalism happening? So let us choose the monster, the Gupta Empire itself. So if you understand Gupta Empire, then I think there would be no doubt. Fresh sheet, please. The fresh sheet, huh? Desh. Where lives the Maharaja? Maharaja is the head, the king of the kings. All right. He is king of the kings, Maharaja. This Maharaja, right now, see, to understand feudalism, let us begin from here. Let us say there is no feudalism. First understand when there was no feudalism, how strong was the Gupta Empire. Then see the shift, then it would be easy for you to understand. Maharaja, imagine this Maharaja has lots and lots of cash. He is very powerful. Let's give him a name. Chandragupta II is very powerful. All right. Chandragupta II is a very powerful ruler. So what he does, he divides his desh into several bhukti. Bhukti is a province where stays Uparika. Uparika is the governor of the province. ये governor कहलाता है. So below Maharaja you have many provinces and the provinces have governor called Uparika and his salary comes in cash. इसको पैसे मिलते हैं. He gets proper salary in cash. Below Bhukti comes Vishaya. Vishaya, which is a kind of a district. Here resides Vishayapati. Vishayapati. He is the district magistrate, DM. Vishayapati. This Vishayapati cannot take any decision without consulting the 4 people in the council, 4 councilmen. He has to discuss before taking any decision. That tells you how powerful these 4 people were. So who are these 4 powerful people? 1. Nagara Sreshtin. Nagara Sreshtin. Who is a Nagara Sreshtin? He is the head of the guild, head of merchant guild. Guild हमेशा merchant का होता है, merchant guild. इसको ऐसे समझिए that he is the president of the trade association. Association of the traders, the merchants. Number 2 is a Sarthavaha. Sarthavaha. He is the head of Karava traders. Now you tell me, which Karava trader should be richest of all the Karava traders and which part of the country they should come from? North में कहां? Silk route. सिर्फ एक शब्द का जवाब है, silk route. That tells you the importance of Silk Route. Number 3, You have Pratham Kulika. Pratham Kulika. He is the head of the artisans, is the head artisan. And similarly, for the first time, a new jati is introduced. New jati is introduced who occupationally does administration only and accountancy only. You call him Pratham Kayast. Jati is emerging. He is the head of the accountant. So these four people, without consulting these four people, the Vishayapati cannot take a decision. He cannot. After Vishaya, you have Bhumi, Patak, or Vethi. That is a kind of a block where you have the block divisional officer, Vethi Mahattar. If you come from Bihar, you must have heard the word Mahato. Mahato. You must have heard the word Malhotra. These titles come from here. This Vethi Mahattar in Maharashtra and Karnataka exists by the name Ayukta and Adhikari or Adhikaran. So it has three names. That tells you the extent of Gupta Empire, that they stretch till Karnataka. And finally comes the gram, the village, where you have Gramik. He is the village headman. And here comes the best proof. This Gramik will take every decision based on a council. 5th century, until 5th century, he had a council of five people, which he called Pancha Mandali. And that is the strongest Gupta empire could ever be. This proof comes from a 5th century inscription. We call it Sachi inscription. Whatever I have written is mentioned in the Sachi inscription of Chandragupta II. In other words, till this inscription, there is no feudalism. But suddenly, after 100 years, 100 saal baad, a stark change happens. 6th century. The Council of 5 is replaced by Council of 8 called Ashta Kula. Ashta Kula. If you know some bit of Sanskrit, if you know some bit of Hindi, you know this Kul is basically clan. Ashta Kul, which gives you the first hint that the Sarpanch, the Gramik, is pulling in the council his own relatives. All right, his cousin, his nephew, his son, all have been pulled in the council. And one of the most important features of feudalism was hereditary, non-transferable, which means feudalism has seeped in at the grassroots level. 6th century inscription, Damodarpur inscription of Buddhagupta. In other words, since 6th century, Gupta was under feudalism. Now it is time to put everything in one sheet, everything. It is now the time of the closure of feudalism. Block. Bhumi is the block. Vishaya is the district. Bhukti is the province. Veti Malhotra is the BDO. Block will have a block divisional officer. Veti Matra is the BDO. Vishayapati is the DM because he is in the district. Uparika is the governor because he is in the province. And Desh has Maharaja because he is the king of the kings. Okay, written. Now I want you to leave some space on the left. All right, some space on the left, landscape better. Rest your wish. Imagine this is Desh. And here you have a Maharaja. Now it is time to take a name of this Maharaja so that we understand where we begin from. This boy is Vimal or Vinay, whatever name we took. Vimal or Vinay? Vimal. This Maharaja is Vimal. He is a Gupta Empire ruler and he has taken the throne when there is feudalism. In a Desh can exist Bhukti, BHU dot, can exist a Vishaya, Veti, VET and Gram, correct? Yahi pada na? Okay. Now, today is what date? The 3rd of February. And imagine that this Maharaja has not sent the salary to the accounts of his officers. So there is a big hue and cry. So what he does, he calls for a party, he throws a party, he invites all the governors and he thinks of a solution. He says, all the governors, I give you your province as a bhog. From now on, your province will become your hereditary property, which means it is non-transferable, which also means you have to take care of the people below you. This is how he sent his responsibility of paying the salary to the others to the Bhukti, and also saved himself from paying money to Bhukti because he does not have money. His bhog, he got the bhog, so he declared himself. He started calling himself Raja. But when he went home after 2-3 drinks, and when he got up early next morning, then he realized that how would he pay salary to the Vishaya, the Veti and the Gram, because even he is Tantan Gopal. So he does the same trick. He throws a party for all the district magistrates. And he says, your district will be now your bhog. Ye aapka bhog hoga. So in jubilance, you started calling yourself Mahasamanta. But the problem is, this district magistrate has to arrange for the salary of the block divisional officer and also send a bullock cart to carry the grains from the village. Even he does not have money. He does the same trick. He throws a party and gives bhog, the block, to the Veti. And this is how he starts calling himself Samanta, the last. After which you cannot break free because village is the last. Village is the last. You can't break further. आप इसके आगे नहीं तोड़ सकते. So you see, everything, every burden is on one person, and that is the Veti Mahattar who has just become Samant. He has only one option. Subjugate peasants. Do not write, just look at the board first. You see, the Maharaja gave the power to the Uparika. Uparika gave the power to the district magistrate. District magistrate gave the power to the BDO. Correct? Correct? Decentralization, political decentralization. ये लिखा था ना? आगे देखो. In any given situation, if the state would be powerful, the flow should be from top to bottom. If the state is powerful, the flow is from top to bottom. Desh, Bhukti, Vishaya, Bhumi, Gram. But here, the movement is towards the horizontal side. This is vertical. Vertical is gone. Now you have a horizontal claim. In other words, this stage and this stage is new stages. Nahin? intermediaries, emergence of intermediaries, political decentralization, emergence of intermediaries, subjugation of peasants. That is feudalism. Understood? इसी को कहते हैं whenever you have horizontal distribution, that is a symbol of feudalism in a country. Whenever you have a vertical distribution, that is a symbol of a monarchical state or a strong state, whether there is no feudalism. You understand? That is feudalism. Now you can draw. So, there was a boy, his name was Om. He wanted to be Dharma Vijay, Digvijay. So he also did not have money. And he knew if he kills this Vimal, if he goes to war and if he kills this Vimal, then he will have to give salary to all these people. He says, no, Baba, I can't. So what he does, he defeats this boy, but never kills him. He says, you continue like this. All you have to do is, you have to call me a bigger Maharaja. So Om is Maharaja Dhiraja. Maharaja Dhiraj. That is how titles are taken. And UPSC asks a very simple question. Titles like Maharaja Dhiraj came into existence in which time period? The answer is early medieval. This question has been asked 18 times in 35 years in UPSC. A single question. That is how feudalism looks like. Done? Everyone? Fatapat. Yes, Shiv. Only with tribute. It's a strong state. Vertical submission of an administration is the symbolism of a strong state. इसी को modern politics में federal structure कहते हैं. और इस structure को coalition, बुद्धि लगाने की बात है. पढ़ा लिखा होना चाहिए उसके लिए. वो आपके ऊपर है. वो आप खुद से एनालिसिस कीजिए. मेरा काम है मिडिल बताना आपको. आगे बढ़ूं? चलो. Typology of land grants. The ruler gives land to people. All right. The ruler gives land to the people. One form of land is given to the Brahmins. And that is called Brahmade. That is a land which is a gift, dan, to the Brahman. The other form of land which is given to the Brahman is called Agraharam. Agrahar or Agraharam, which is basically the donation. Always remember, a Brahman never pays tax, non-taxable. And the land is always hereditary, non-transferable land. A Brahman gives nothing. Number 2 is the religious grant, which is for his Purta Dharma. Here comes Devadana, which is a gift to God himself, a land given to the God himself. Means, for example, Venkateshwara in Tirupati. That is one form of land. Now comes number 2, that is called Padichanda. Padichanda. That is a gift to Buddhists and Jaina. So when you give the same land, that is Devadan, to Buddhist and Jaina, which is not part of direct Hinduism, then it is called Padichanda. So now you tell me, which is the first evidence of Padichanda in India? You tell me. What is the evidence of the first Pali Chand in India? Exactly. The first example of feudalism in India is actually the example of Pali Chand in India, because Gautami Putra Satkarni gave land to Buddhist. That is how UPSC asks questions. Number 3 is the secular one. Again, I do not have to say this, but if you want, you can write, a god will never pay tax. And this is hereditary. You cannot ask Tirupati to shift to Kanyakumari. He will stay there. All right, so hereditary. Secular. इसमें दो हैं. One we already have done, Bhogika, and in detail, so we will not talk about it. If you want, you can write. It is non-taxable, but annual tribute is paid. It is hereditary. And number 2 is the officials category. Officers. Officials. These officials like district magistrate, Vethi Mahattar, matlab today's district magistrate, today's civil service or civil servant who is sitting at the positions. Once you retire, you have to give the land back to the state. It is taxable. It is non-hereditary, which means the day you retire, you have to give your bungalow back to the state. Out of all this, only this exists in India, only this exists in India, which is not existent anywhere else. Brahmins is our own production, home production. They do not exist in Europe. All right. So we have to give special importance to the Brahmins. Done? Everyone? Brahmins getting land, Brahmadev. No, it is feudalism, early medieval. On one side write king and the other side write Brahman. Please understand, the king wants to become Chakravarti. He has a desire to rule. Plus, he does not have cash. Plus, he has to follow Purta Dharma just to ensure that the people do not go against him, which means give Dan, Agrahara or Brahmade. So why should a Brahman be given a Dan? One is Purta Dharma, but does Brahman give something in return? You are giving Dan to the Brahman and you also know that he will not pay. He is a non-payer. He is a non-payer. So is it benefiting to the king? Maybe 2 reasons. One, maybe he gives legitimacy to the position of a Raja by writing stories. Do you know who this Raja is? He is the 36th generation of Prabhu Shri Ram. So he may create stories, legitimacy. That could be one reason, but there is another reason. The Brahman also increases state revenue. Now I am saying that he does not pay tax, and I am also saying that he increases the tax revenue. Don't you think this is oxymoronic? No, don't you think I am contradicting myself? Don't you think? Actually not. You will see how. To understand, you have to understand the Brahman. Who is a Brahman? By definition, Brahman is a sage. Sage is a wanderer. So since he is a wanderer, he has something which nobody else has. A wanderer goes to Kashmir. The same wanderer goes to Bengal. The same wanderer goes to Rajasthan, then goes to Dakkan, then goes to Kanyakumari, then comes back. He is a wanderer. He has that knowledge which nobody has, and that knowledge is of agricultural production. ये चलता फिरता encyclopedia है. He's a moving encyclopedia. He does not only know about the crops and the irrigation methods. He does not know only about the crops and the irrigational methods, but he knows exactly in which climatic condition which crop can be grown. Yes, he himself will not pay tax, but the land where he settles, he can increase the productivity. You understand? That is the most important thing. Now imagine this sage is in his first ashram, Brahmacharya ashram. So what happens? He comes to a kingdom, the Raja gives him a Brahmade. He is given a Brahmade, a gift of land, and the Raja insists, kindly sir, stay with me, stay here. So when he stays, will he move anymore? No, he becomes sedentary. He is a non-movable Brahman now. Sedentary, वो रुक गया. So once he stops, he is into Grihastha ashram. He gets married. He starts a family. He starts a family. He starts a family. And therefore, he becomes a Kutumb. Kutumb is the word used for the family people who are into agriculture. Now, what is the only occupation that he can take over once he becomes a sedentary? Agriculture. Was agriculture the occupation of a Brahman? It is the occupation of a Vaishya. ये वैश्य का प्रोफेशन है. So once he becomes a sedentary lifestyle bearer, he becomes an agriculturist, which actually was a Vaishya occupation. So क्या हुआ? You are taking a new occupation of somebody else. That is how within Brahman also you have a creation of a jati, and that is called a भूमिहार. किसी ने पूछा था ना, what is वर्ण and what is jati? यहां तक रुकना था. So Bhumihar is that Brahman category which took the profession of a Vaishya beyond, because agriculture is the mainstay now. A Bhumihar. And I think there would be Bhumihars in this class also. So you have, when they ask you, where did you come from in the interview, you say Gupta period. Okay. Bhumihar. Understood? Now understand it again. Shall we? ठीक लिया? हाँ चलो बेटा, फटाफट और थोड़ा तेज. चलो बहुत बढ़िया. भूमिहार इज अ जाति बेटा, नॉट अ वर्ण. वर्णचारी है, ब्राह्मण, क्षत्रिय, वैश्य, शूद्र. Now imagine this is a piece of land which the Raja wants to give. The king is here. ध्यान से सुनना. Those who have intended to take sociology optionals. All right. ऐसे तुम्हारा मुझसे कोई लेना देना नहीं है, बट मैं सिखा देता हूं, समझो फ्री में. इसलिए बिकॉज इसका काम आपको वहां पड़ेगा. So king has to give this piece of land to a Brahman. Now you tell me, will the king go for a survey? Should a king go for a survey? Why? Because it will incur loss. Because he has to, no, he will sit on a horse, he will take people, then he will measure the land, they will have to pay salary for it. Too much work. So does that mean that the king will give Thar desert to the Brahman? Why? Because Brahma Hatya is Mahapap. Purta Dharma, remember? So क्या करोगे तुम? If you are the Raja, how would you give this land to the Brahman? Forest land. No, sir. You actually do not give the land in the beginning. What you do is you gift cows. आप गाय गिफ्ट करते हैं. Cow is a very special animal. Cow can be called Gau. I hope you will agree with me. So what happens when you leave the cow, you give the cow to the Brahman, and then you leave the cow and fix a time from early morning till sunset. Whatever land the cow will graze, that is the land which belongs to the Brahman. Understood? So whatever land the cow went for yatra will be the region of the Brahman. That is the territory of a Brahman. Gautra. Understood? Dubara. Once again. Why cow? Because cow is a very special animal. तुम दोबारा सर्किल बना लेना. Because cow is a very special animal. When you leave a cow, the first thing that he will do is graze. Then to digest that cellulose, because he has cellulase, he needs water. He will look for water. And once he finds water and he has eaten, he will look for a place to sit in a shaded region and eat. The cow found that piece of land where water exists because they are good explorers. They will find. उन पे छोड़ दो, वो ढूंढ लेंगे. So now the Brahman, so the king can be at least happy that the Brahman will not die of thirst. Brahma hatya to kam se kam nahi hoga. The Brahman will not die of the thirst. So therefore, it is here where the house can be built by the Brahman. This land is called Vastu. Okay. Now you see, who is a Brahman? A sage. Who has the knowledge of? So now it is an open challenge to the Brahman. One part of the land is kheel, which is fallow. It's an open challenge to the Brahman. If you really are a sage, try converting it and make it a fertile land. It's my challenge to you. But it is very subtle. Now the third piece of land has never been under cultivation. Aprahat. This is the forest belt. Now, do you think Brahman will work? Haath sukha, Brahman bhukha. Brahman never works. They only take the leverage. So they are not into work. So kaam kaun karega? The king very intelligently transferred the work to the Brahman. Nahin? Very intelligently he has transferred his work of getting the forest cleaned. Brahman is also intelligent. Brahman goes to the king. He says, my dear king, you are Chakravarti. You have gone for so many battles, so many wars. You may have got many war captives. And since I know you follow dharma, your war captives would be non-Brahmins. Give it to me. Mujhe de do. What will you do with these war captives? I will tell you. I will use these war captives to get the forest cleaned. The king will say, why would a war captive work for you? Brahman will say, leave it to me. He takes the war captives and give them an offer. They are given an offer which they cannot refuse. The first offer is, you would be set free. You would be set free. Where? Where would we go? You are allowed freedom to settle in this aprahat. Once you clean this area, I'll give you a plot. You can stay within it. You have the freedom to settle here. And since you have come under my tutelage, I am a Brahman. I am following the planet called Brihaspati. And you know what is Brihaspati? Jupiter. You know what is the most interesting part of Jupiter? It is the planet of the Guru. You know why? You know why? Because it takes 12 years to complete one revolution. So Brahman says, since you are with me, that is the Guru, I give you 12 years of tax exemption. You do not have to pay. After all, you are from the 13th year, you become the taxpayer. You see, king is happy, Brahman is happy, war captives happy. You understand? That is how the lands are cleaned. Now the land is clean. The war captives have cleaned the land. Now the land will look like this. The most fertile land, the center land, is with the Brahmins. Among the war captives, the Kshatriyas take the second circle. The next circle is taken by the Vaishya, and the last circle is taken by the... That is how a village is formed. That is what happens when a king and a Brahman comes together. How many of you know your Gotra? How many of you know your Gotra? Raise your hands. What about the rest? You do not know your Gotra? How many of you are Kashyap Gotra? How many Kashyap Gotra Brahman? Keep your hands raised. You are Kashyap Brahman. How many Kashyap Kshatriya? How many Kashyap Vaishya? I will not ask the rest. 3. All 3 of you have come to Vajiram. You see, the Gotra was for Brahman. But how did the Kshatriya and the Vaishya got Gotra? Because once upon a time you were war captives, you came and stayed over here, and later when somebody asked you, where did you come from? You said, Kashyap Gotra. So what is Gotra? Your ancient address. That is your Gotra. I have given you a proof in your class only. All right. You can do it at home. Set many examples. That is how sociology rolls in India. Now we are left with the last. Proliferation of jati, emergence of jati. Bhakti we will take up separately because it requires 3 hours. गोत्र फिर से समझाइए. नो. दोबारा देख लीजिए. इनको देखने की परमिशन है ना एक बार और. हाँ, वॉच इट अगेन. I will repeat, it is better that you watch it again. I will say the same thing. नहीं, वेस्टेज ऑफ टाइम. अच्छा कोई सवाल पूछो तो लगे कि अब सवाल पूछा. यही पुराना फिर से बताइए. Done? The last. The same map, the old map, which we had drawn. Here was Byzantine and here was China, correct? There was a route called the Silk Route. And suddenly everybody had stopped coming on the Silk Route. Are those rights transferred to the Brahman as well? Which right? Everything, once it is given as a dan, every right is with them. A bhog is a bhog, whether it is given to a Brahman or somebody else. Now please understand, India is not the only country in the world, and Indians are not the only ones who are the merchants. So there is another class of people who live here. You see, we civilized society only talk about civilized people. We do not talk about robbers and plunderers. There were many nomads of Central Asia, even they lost their jobs. After all, they plundered. So if there is no the most hit, worst hit business profession in the Corona period was of the thieves. They starved because they cannot come to your house. You are at your house. From where Kashyap Gotra people came? No idea. Then what about Vastu if there is concentric dwelling? Concentric dwelling. Wherever the water is, that is where the concept came from. Then came where the direction of your house is towards water. That is how Vastu Shastra will come into picture. Anyway, the nomads also lost their job. After all, they looted because they had one thing which nobody else had. Horses. They had great horses. They lived in Central Asia, Central Asian nomads. Suddenly, they also lost employment. Because if there is no trader, there is no plundering. So think from their vantage point. They lost everything. So what to do? They can go to Central Asia, but they will die there. No production. They can go to Byzantine. They did. They went to Byzantine and killed everybody. After all, they stopped coming for business. And one section entered India. They came to India and they took this route. I hope you understand they cannot come from here because there is something called Himalaya. So they came from this route. This is Rajasthan and Gujarat. They entered from this route. We have given them a name. So they came around the same time period, 550, and they came because they were angry. They came and killed everybody. That is how somebody declined, and that is the Gupta Empire. Gupta Empire के decline का कारण क्या है? The Huns invasion. When the Huns invaded, the Gupta Empire collapsed. It completely collapsed. But why did they come here? Did they come to loot? No, they came to stay. So when you stay for long, what happens? When you stay for long, what happens? No, you get married. Use simple words. You get married. That is why you have 3 years graduation only. Don't stay for long. Otherwise, they will have to have a kindergarten with a college. So they stayed, so they got married. But the problem is, India runs on a simple system of the Chaturvarna philosophy. The Varn, Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. Correct? The Ved says you get intermarried, but still you are outcast for Indians. You know why? Because according to Ved, you still are Malech. चाहे तुम कुछ भी कर लो, कितने भी दांत के नीचे चने चबा लो, whatever you do, you are considered a Malech, outsider, unclean, according to the Ved. But which time did they enter? Early medieval. Which book is important right now? Puran, not Ved. So why we are discussing Ved? So according to Puran, there is a formula. Puran suggests a formula. All you have to do is gift a golden womb. Gift a golden womb to the Brahman. You gift a golden womb to the Brahman. It is called Hiranya Garbhadan. Hiranya Garbha Dan. You gift a golden womb to the Brahman will put his hand on your head, and the next moment you become a part of the Varna system. You qualify into Varna. अब इसको ऐसे समझो. Let us say today government of India announces bring 5 crores, take a cadre in UPSC. Whatever you like, whatever you want to take, you come and take over. So you have 5 crores, you go. So what do you want to become? Indian Postal Service or Indian Revenue Services? If there is two choice, Indian Postal Service, Indian Revenue Service, what would you choose? Indian? Okay, so you will not become a Shudra. Now again the two choices, the Indian IRS or Indian IPS. Now you have two choices, IAS, IPS. Exactly, but what if IAS is closed? So through Hiranyagarbha you become Kshatriya, because Brahmins are intelligent. They will not open Brahman. Through Hiranyagarbha you can become either of the three. So why would you become a Shudra and a Vaishya if you are paying? Become a Kshatriya. So you cannot become a Brahman through Hiranyagarbhadan. You can only become a Kshatriya. That is the formula. Hiranyagarbhadan. That is why it is called Kali Yuga. Nothing makes sense. All right. Now the question is, I hope you understand. Not everybody who is coming from outside has so much money to give a golden womb. So the question is, what about the poor Huns? Not everybody is rich. What about the poor Huns? Let me give you an example. I hope you have been to a college, and every college has certain students who are youth leaders. What makes a youth leader a youth leader? What makes the president of your college somebody different from the others? Rhetorics. No, a youth leader is a youth leader because he has youth behind him. And he has many bahi khata which he will not pay in the canteen. I hope you understand, to become a leader, you need a support of those people who themselves are so underconfident that they never want to become a leader themselves. You need a support of a group of people who are actually undertrodden, who actually follow you and will follow you verbatim. So what I'm trying to tell you is, these Huns who are rich because there are poor Huns. It is the responsibility of a rich Hun that a poor Hun also enters with him, because otherwise who will go slow, who will go for slogans behind him? There need to be people who will be supporting this new Kshatriya. So that is the state. When I'm saying state, I mean the rich Huns who has just become a Kshatriya, a king. It is their responsibility to pull the poor people even though they do not have gold. So what is the currency of the state? If, let us say, the state wants to give you something, what would he give? What would the state give to you? What is the most important currency of the state? Land? No. So today, if the government of India has to give you the most beautiful gift of your life, you need a cow. Freedom, opportunity, people. The most important document or the currency of this country is the Gazette of India. And that is what you are here for. The day you clear IAS, you become a civil servant. You are not a civil servant unless there is a Gazette notification which says so. If your name is not in the Gazette, nobody will call you an IAS officer. The Gazette is important. The notification of the government is the most important currency. You understand? One notice. But in those days, you did not have Gazette. You have something else. The most important currency of the state is called a myth. You create a story. And this currency is minted by only one group of people called the Brahmins. Brahmins mint this currency. So you create a myth, and this myth is a currency, because the most interesting thing about a myth, about this currency, is it always is written for a purpose. A myth is not a story. It has always got a purpose and objective. And what is the objective? To pull the poor Huns inside the system. Correct? So the myth goes something like this. Once upon a time, sage Vashisht, यहाँ से कहानी शुरू करो, वशिष्ठ छोड़ो और शुरू से. Once upon a time, Parshuram destroyed Kshatriyas of this country. The Kshatriyas were destroyed by Parshuram. When that happened, suddenly Brahmins, Kshatriya gone, Vaishya and Shudra remained in the Chaturvarna category. No Kshatriya. Every Brahman got scared. Now they are doing Trahimam, what to do? So the Brahmins consulted Guru Vashisht. Vashisht said, don't worry, I will perform a yagya. And that yagya came to be known as Agni Kund Yagya, or basically in sociology you call it Agni Kund theory. So Vashisht started worshipping. He started chanting the verses, and from that Agni Kund, 4 men came out. Pratihar, Parmar, Solanki, and Chauhan. These four came out. Look at the interesting, do not go into the logic of this, because when they came out, they were wearing dhoti. So don't ask me this, that if they have come from fire, how did this dhoti survive? It's a story. All right, so do not find logic into this. So these four men were born out of the Agnikund. They were given a task. Go and protect the realm of this subcontinent. Go and protect. You are the guardians. You are going to protect the people. They ask a simple question, and that is interesting. Four new people born exactly as an adult from the Agnikund. Do not go into the logic, but they asked a logical question. How we four can take care of such a big land? Vashist said, good question. Do one thing, go and marry the most powerful clans of this country. Remember, Huns knew horse riding and also had iron with them. So I hope you understand, when a community comes, there is male and female. So these men married with the females of the Hun community. Ladka kiska? Boy belongs to us. Ladki kiski? Unki. तो तुम कौन हुए? Barati. The boy belongs to you. The girl belongs to them. So who are you? You are the Barati. So Anulom marriage. From this marriage, children were born, and those children made 36 clans. It is the same 36 clans which today is called Rajputs. 36 Rajput clans of this country. Now comes a logical question. What about the men of the Huns? Were they only there to put chairs in the marriage ceremony? Even they have desire to get married. So these men, where did they enter from? Rajasthan, Gujarat. So they ended up marrying, they married the local tribes of Rajasthan and Gujarat. So the children, so this marriage is called Pratilom marriage. Pratilom marriage. So the children born from them were never given the status because the father was from outside. So they were never given the equal status as Rajputs. They came to be known as Jats and Gujars. So that is the myth of the emergence of Rajputs. Today in this class I have taught you what Rajputs want us to know. In the next class I will tell you where they really come from. All right, that is the end of the lecture.